Good morning and welcome to Stormont, the place that has been affected the most by the post-Brexit protocol agreement. Of course, it's brought this place down behind us, unionists saying that they cannot sit in a government where they do not hold power over their own laws. Of course, that's being held by the European Courts of Justice as part of the protocol agreement. Now, that could be the biggest sticking point that Rishi Sunak may have. And I suppose this all really shows on how much time the Prime Minister actually spent with the parties. He roughly spent about 20 minutes, half an hour, with all the other parties except the DUP. Now, the DUP, the Democratic Unionist Party, they represent the majority of unionists in Northern Ireland. And they have said, we are not going into government with that. Well, he spent late into the evening, his officials met with DUP officials on the Thursday night, and then on Friday there was to-ing and fro-ing before the actual meeting started, and then it was about an hour long. Jeffrey Donaldson came out to say that he was happy enough with the way it had moved forward, but there was still some work to be done. And of course, he has his 7 tests set, but in those 7 tests is really everyday problems for the people of Northern Ireland. We've seen such things as 25% tariffs on steel, low-level products coming in, loss leaders, if you like, coming into our shopping centres are very, very hard to get in because of the amount of paperwork that has to be done. And if there's only very small profit margins on them, of course, manufacturers won't be putting them into Northern Ireland. That causes competition problems and forces the prices up. Before Christmas, of course, and round Christmas, people clicking on to Amazon and all other sorts of online goods and finding out that it does not apply to Northern Ireland. So, to fix that, they have to put in green and red lanes. Those products that intend to stay in Northern Ireland and those products that intend to go south of the border. Now, the checks aren't the problem. That takes very little time. It's the paperwork that go with those checks. So when they have green lanes, will there be paperwork? TSS checks on that cost £318 million in the last few months, or the last year. That's a lot of money for companies across the UK, of which 70% of our trade is with, to start to be filling in to bring them into Northern Ireland. We've really seen that appearing in our shopping baskets here. The prices here going up very, very steeply indeed. Then, of course, we have state aid. And that comes across in the boats that came across here. Well, the ships that are going to be built for the Royal Navy. There is questions around the tariffs on steel, state aid, how much can be put in. These are all problems that go around the European Courts of Justice, and they rule on divergence. Then we've got problems with drugs, normal drugs that come in, pharmaceuticals. Of course, they have to be licensed every other way. So all those things have to be put in an agreement. And Jeffrey Donaldson has been very, very cautious because the DUP have been here before. They've been here 2 or 3 times before. Boris promised them the sun, the moon and the stars. He actually said those bits of paperwork that go from Northern Ireland to England, don't worry about it, rip them up, throw them in the bin. Well, that wasn't how Europe's seen it. And of course, they've tried to close that off. So he has all that to do. That deal needs to be signed, ratified, and the detail put in place before the DUP will take their seats here behind us, because they won't be fooled twice. And for that to be done in such a hurry, it won't be done right. So therefore, they're looking this done. And Jeffrey Donaldson more or less put to it yesterday that it could be up to a year, a long time.
Dougie, I think what the Prime Minister actually said at the time was, if you've got to fill in those forms, tell them to ring the Prime Minister. I don't think they did.
No. And Dougie, I've got a point for you. So, look, I read the withdrawal agreement and the political protocol in October 2019 as an MEP, and I saw within moments, before the ink was even dry, that the DUP would not be happy with this. Are we any nearer, do you think, to an agreement? Because the sea border is still there. It still seems to me that the ECJ would have dominance. Can you see a breakthrough, or can we just see a betrayal?
Quite seriously, the mood music yesterday was, I think we're seeing movement here, but we're seeing movement from what is suggested by one side is actually bringing us back to where we were at the very start of Brexit. And of course, Northern Irish folk were told that wouldn't happen. There's no digital solution to this. And I mean, yesterday, Jeffrey Donaldson was coming to the mics and he was talking about ECJ involvement, and really what they're looking at is any goods that are going into Europe, could they be overseen by the ECJ? And they could probably live with that. Goods that are coming back and forward and being manufactured here for the UK and those markets, well, there's no need for the European Courts of Justice to rule over that divergence because it's not going into Europe. And it really brings us back to what this is all about. It was never protecting the Good Friday Agreement. This was protecting the integrity of a single market, and it was that of the EU. And of course, the Republic of Ireland is part of that market. And there were those in Northern Ireland that were claiming or calling for the rigorous implementation of the protocol. If that had taken place when it started, we would be in very, very troubled waters right about now. But if that is the case, and they're going to allow European Courts of Justice to look after what is theirs and others to look after what is theirs, well, then Northern Ireland might be in a very different place indeed. It might be in a very good position, but that will cause problems for the likes of Sinn Féin, who are the biggest party in the Republic, because that will be giving Northern Ireland a very, very big advantage in global markets.